Good morning. Your AMI packets 1 through 5 are due Friday, April 10th. I printed them off, I've looked through them, and I just wanted to be sure that you knew which ones you were working on. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the math involved. I'm not going to work out every problem, but I am going to give you some guidance. So the first AMI packet talks about the cars and the travel and predicting the future, and you need to read that article. You need to read the article on the future of travel. You need to answer these questions, and then it asks you to answer some questions about this data in this table. It says, in 2015 alone, there were roughly 48,000 drivers involved in fatal crashes on the roads in the United States. The table shows the data about the drivers who were involved in the fatal accidents. So here we go. We have ages, and then we have the drivers, the number of drivers, and then the number of drivers who were distracted. Okay? So of the 3,183 15 to 19-year-olds involved in a fatal accident, 290 of them were distracted. That's what those numbers are telling us. So which set of data could you use to determine which age group was most involved in the fatal car crashes? Well, I would look for the drivers involved in fatal accidents. That's how I would answer that one. I would say the drivers involved in fatal accidents. And then it asks you which age group was it, and we can see that that was clearly the most, so it's age group from 20 to 29. Number 2 says, would you use a bar graph, a line graph, or a pie chart to visually display the data on the number of distracted drivers involved in fatal crashes by age? And which would you use to display the data on the number of distracted drivers involved in fatal crashes? Well, I would not use a line graph because that compares change over time. I would probably lean towards a bar graph because it's going to compare categories, but you could possibly make an argument for I'm not sure about a pie chart. A pie chart's going to tell you a percentage. Now, it would tell you the percentage for each one. So you have to be careful there. My safest bet, I think, would be a bar graph. What percentage of drivers age 15 to 19 were distracted during their fatal crashes? Well, that would be 290 over 3,183. And if you want to know that percentage, and then I'm going to multiply it by 100. Looks like about 9.1%. The 70 and up age group looks like about 6.7%. What does the data suggest about how age affects the likelihood that a driver will be involved in a fatal accident? What additional data might you need to prove a more conclusive answer? It looks like 20 to 29-year-olds are more likely, but you might need to know the ages of all drivers. You know, do we just have more people in that age group? Or maybe that age group's driving more miles. Maybe they're on the road more. We don't know. Those are some things we might need to know. How might driverless cars affect the crash statistics? Well, they would decrease crashes for sure, and an example of that would be the Hyperloop. So that's just some ideas on things they might be looking for here, okay? I'm not telling you that's the right answer. I don't have the copy of the answer guide. I'm just reading through there and thinking, well, if my kid were working on this, this is what I would tell them. Day 2 was about Antarctica. I thought that was a neat little article. I kind of felt sad when they said the penguins would be going the wrong direction, but they weren't allowed to turn them around because they had to sign off that all they were doing there was observing, that they weren't interacting. If an animal seemed to notice them, they had to back away. We have the chart here. Says water depth and pressure. Tells you that the penguin can dive up to 120 meters. And then it gives you the chart here. The question says, by how many bars does water pressure increase with every 50 meters of depth? Well, every 50 meters, now how many 50-meter sections are there in 500? Well, there's 10. And the pressure went up 50, so it went up 5 for every 50 meters. It's going up 1 bar every 10 meters. What depth does the water pressure reach 275 bars? Well, if you'd made your chart, they ask you to graph it, and I put water depth here in meters, and I put water pressure in bars on the side. Along the bottom, I just used 0, 500, 1,000, and up the side, I used 50, 100. And the 275 would be somewhere in here. And if you look down there, it'd be about 2,750 meters. Use your graph to estimate the water pressure of the maximum depth of the penguin, which is 120 meters. So on the bottom where I've got meters, going to 120, which is about right here. And I'm going to look over there, and I'm going to estimate it to be about 12. Emperor penguins are believed to be the deepest diving birds. They've been known to reach 565 meters. How much more pressure do they experience than the depth of the yellow-eyed penguins? Well, we've already figured out it's like 1/10. So 565 meters would be about 56.5 bars. And the penguin is going to go about 12. So our difference between the two would be about 44.5. The record for the deepest dive by a person was more than 300 meters beneath the surface. How do you think it would feel? Well, now you tell them what you think. I think it would be very uncomfortable, but you're answering that question based on what you think. So be sure you put some thought into this. These are not hard. Y'all just need to do your very best. Day 3 was about the roller coasters. And it was about the presidents and the museums. I thought it was a pretty neat, interesting article. Graph, the roller coasters. Guys, I didn't finish that graph. What I'd do is a bar graph. I'd put the name of the roller coaster at the bottom, and I'd put how tall it went. They may be looking for a scatter plot comparing length with speed, but I kept reading, trying to find that, and I just did not see where it said that. But anyway, they said how much faster is the Formula Rossa than the next fastest roller coaster? And there they are right there, and their difference would be about 47 kilometers per hour. For how long did the Goliath hold the record? The Goliath was opened in February of 2000, and it held the record until the Millennial opened in May. So from February till May. So all of February, all of March, all of April. You might get away with answering 4, depending on what time of the month it opened. But anyway, I would explain my thinking on that one. What's the difference between a Giga Coaster and a Strata Coaster? It tells you right here. A Giga Coaster has a drop between 91 and 119 meters, and a Strata Coaster has a drop of more than 120. What fraction of these roller coasters are located outside the United States? I found 2 of them to be outside the United States out of 6, which was 1/3. The next article was about the rainforest. So I hope you read that, answered your questions there. They gave you a graph and asked you some questions. They said, tell us some things that are similar, some things that are different. Well, the temperatures are both rising during June and July, and the temperatures are both peaking only one time. They don't have a second peak. They only have one peak. Difference is the temperatures in Washington is lower than the temperature in California year-round. And the graph of the Washington numbers is a little more smooth. Doesn't have just this. California goes up quite a bit. kind of straight right there. Then it asks us for which box and whiskers plot represented Washington. Well, guys, to make a box and whiskers plot, the first thing I did was I listed all the temperatures for Washington. And then I remembered that a box and whiskers plot is supposed to be in order. So I went back and put those numbers in order. Now, I didn't have the actual numbers. I just kind of had to estimate. And then I knew that to make a box and whiskers plot, I needed to find the median. So I went to the middle, and that's where I would put my bar. And then I went to the lower quartile and the upper quartile. And then I would know that I would have a whisker here and a whisker here. So the easiest thing for me to do would say, well, which graphs have whiskers from 45 to about 69? Well, A was out of the question. B started at 45 and ended about 69. So that was my Washington answer. California, I went back and looked and I realized that it ranged from 55 to 105. So I decided that D matched that one the best. And how many months was the maximum in between the quartiles? Well, it should be for 6 because you've got 50% of your data in there. That's just some ideas and some thoughts on those. Then we talked about the land bridge, and some of the questions they ask you to do there was they ask you to make a graph again. So on my graph, I put altitude in kilometers here, air pressure and kPa here, altitude and air pressure. Don't forget to give all these things titles. I graphed my data. What does your graph tell you about the relationship? Well, the higher you go, the less air pressure. Mount Everest is about 9 kilometers. 9 kilometers would be here. And if you went up here and you looked across, I said that'd be, 38. They're going to be lenient with you as long as your estimates are reasonable. Altimeters are devices on airplanes. What do you think and how do you think they work? This is giving you an opportunity to explain something. Your opinion. You don't have to be right or wrong. You just have to put some thought into your answer. Would a soccer ball fly further when kicked at sea level or at an altitude of 16 kilometers? I think, and I'm no scientist, but I think it would go further at 16 kilometers because there's less air pressure to hold it down. Why do you think a soccer ball with lower air pressure travels a shorter distance than one with higher air pressure? I'm not sure about how to answer that question. I figure that you guys have your own opinion. Y'all have played ball where you went out and you grabbed your basketball or your football or whatever and it was flat. That's what they're talking about. It's got less air pressure. So why do you think that that's going to happen that way? This is just a quick little summary of those AMI packets and reminder, please take these to the junior high and put them in the boxes. Submit them to the school so you can get your points. I just hope y'all are taking care of each other and remaining safe at your house, and have a wonderful Wednesday.